Football in Focus, Shane's Rib Shack, back for a Thursday night. Shane's up on Westover Terrace. Going to talk some more football with Football in Focus this evening. Going to talk about a few different topics, kind of get things warmed up. Dennis White with us to get it started. The Page Pirate players are due in just a few minutes. Shane's beautiful location here on Westover Terrace. Great ribs and also chicken of all different types, barbecue, burgers, a lot of vegetables, some great items here at Shane's Rib Shack. And begin things off tonight with the Football in Focus. Let's touch base with Dennis and kind of look ahead as we do tomorrow night toward this Dudley-Page game. Should be one of the bigger games in town tomorrow night as long as we can get this game in. The weather's kind of acting a little crazy right now. Hoping we can get this game in tomorrow night, Dennis.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The weather, 80% chance of rain tomorrow. And, of course, you know, it's playoff time, and when the rain is, could be possibility to have you to call a game off, or, you know, you want the weather to be great because this is a big game.
Yeah. Going to get the guys coming in from Page, going to grab their meals. Don will get them lined up on some food. We'll talk to Dennis for a few minutes. Let the guys get some things to eat. Got Jalen Gavin in the house tonight, Dominique Britt. Got Chance Manus and also Chris Mosley off from the Page Pirates with us. Looking forward to talking to those guys tonight here at the Shane's Rib Shack on Westover Terrace. And back to that rain. I mean, you're usually the weatherman for us. How about the forecast? Think we're going to get that game in?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those, Andy, just wait and see, because 80% is going to start early morning and it's going to continue all day. And the thing about it would have been a big game like this, the AD is going to make a call. They're going to judge it around 1 o'clock and make a decision, because you don't want the weather at the home team to cause any type of problems. You know, because
you don't want it to kill. Yeah, you don't want it to kill your gate. You want the fans to enjoy the game, right?
Yeah,
right.
You're 100% right.
What do you think about that for tomorrow night? Looking at Dudley and Page at Dudley, big game. Page has one conference loss. Dudley has no losses in the conference, no losses at all so far this season. Page could go in, pull the big upset, and if they were to beat Dudley and say Dudley went to Southeast the following week, could have a three-way tie for first place. A lot of different things laying around right now that could happen with this game coming up on Friday, and the games don't want to look too far ahead, but there are other big games coming up the following week too. But tomorrow night is the focus, and a lot can happen in that one game.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on, a lot of implications, as you stated, that can take place. And, you know, the scenarios are beginning to be put in place. Every coach now sitting around trying to put the puzzle together, because you're now ready to enter into the third stage of your season. First part of the season was non-conference, second part conference, and now playoffs. Everybody want, as you said last week, everybody want to get to Thanksgiving. And to get to Thanksgiving now, these games are very crucial because you're setting your course. For Dudley and Page, this is a big game. This is a huge game. When you look at the big game for Dudley, is that you can solidify at least a tie in a three-way if you lose. So, but if you win, you got a chance now to win outright when you go handle business.
Yeah, Dudley can't go in and play in this game that they're going to lose. They have to be going in and playing that they're going to win. Yeah. They got to be thinking about guys like Emmanuel Mosley having huge games, Lamarck Watlington, Darius Graves, and on down the list you go on and on. Those Connell Young. Dudley you would expect to be running the ball a lot, and Page probably going to do a little bit of both.
You're right. And the thing, when we look at Dudley certainly going to have to do some things differently on offense against a defense like Page. You know, one thing I'm trying to compare who Dudley have played this year that we can kind of put it together, and I have to go back to the Durham Hillside team that came in, and I wasn't there, and you called that game, and I listened to it, and when you try to put that evening, when you look at Page Pirates, who they've played a lot of tough teams to prepare them for this part of the season. So Dudley defense is going to be the key tomorrow night.
It has been all season long.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's been the big plus for them all year.
They have been consistent, and Andy, if my memory serves me correctly, I don't think anyone scored over 14 points on that Dudley defense all year.
I think they didn't give up any points last week. They haven't given up many the past several weeks, and very few teams have had much luck against that Dudley defense this year. And you think about Dudley, you mentioned Dudley's running game, you mentioned Dudley's defense. What do you think about Page to go in and make something quick to get that big stop tomorrow night and try to beat Dudley?
Page, Jalen Gavin is not going to be, he cannot be your only one-dimensional against this Dudley defense. You're going to have to get Timothy Wharton involved. You get Timothy Wharton involved, you get Dominique Britt, it's going to be more than Jalen Gavin on offense, because Jalen Gavin is not enough. It has been proven against the Southeast team. He wasn't enough. against the East Forsyth and Butler and the teams that in Northern, the games they had lost because they was one-dimensional with Gavin.
Yeah, and if you get Gavin and Britt working at the same time, it gives you a two-headed sword. You got a double option, not necessarily going to look at all of Gavin. You get Dominique Britt and Jalen Gavin together working on the same play, kind of at the same time, same different options. More things are possible for Page. Got more things Dudley has to try to handle. It makes it a lot tougher for the Dudley defense. You're looking at two phases of an offensive attack instead of just one all the time.
Absolutely. Once you have a two-headed monster, and then that make the defense guess more. But when you're one-dimensional, they know if Gavin is there by himself, the ball is going to Gavin. And you brought up a very good point against Grimsley that if they put Jalen Gavin in more of the back, then you don't know what he's going to do. But when he's quarterback, you know he's not going to throw the ball. Very seldom is he going to throw the ball. So they're going to mix it up tomorrow. Knowing Page that we have in the future, this is a big game. We're going to see Page do some things tomorrow night they haven't done. We're going to see him add some wrinkles in that they haven't added to try to combat this tough defensive Dudley. So we're going to see a totally different Page team tomorrow. But what happened is when you try to change up
they're going to have to do some different things. You can't do everything the same, and you hope if you try some new things, everybody's in on that same plan. Everybody knows what's going on at the same time, which usually is the case, and you hope those new things work. If they work, you cannot use them a lot of times, just 2 or 3 times, and you got to go from there.
Yeah,
you can't sneak up on somebody, but maybe just a few times.
That's 100% correct. And the thing that Dudley will do, the defense, they're going to put in a scheme just for Jalen Gavin. They're going to have someone spying on him, and they're going to have Emmanuel Mosley probably playing one-on-one on Wharton. So Dudley, all the Dudley weapons, they're going to put it with Page weapons, but I don't think Page weapons can outmatch the Dudley weapons. I think Dudley is just a little outmatched in the talent category this year than Page Fire.
I think you look at it about Page, every game going in, just about every team knows it's going to be Jalen Gavin. It's going to be the key player. They got to work hard to try to keep under the wraps if they can. But like we say, Page has got other options. They got Dominique Britt. They got Anthony A.J. Capel. They got T.J. Timothy Wharton. They've got Kevin Murphy. They got other guys that can work with and get all those guys involved tomorrow night. Let's look at this Southeast Guilford team. Is your troop? Your team just left out of here. Nathan and the other kids you came in with, they've already bolted and taken off down the street. But what about this Southeast Guilford team? We saw Antonio Moore last week effective. We've seen Shakir Turner very effective for them. Bubba Craven, their quarterback, still found. All those kids came in here, by the way, a few weeks back. New kid, too, Styles Jennings has now found a spot in that Southeast Guilford backfield. Southeast, pretty darn tough last week. One of the better games we've seen this year as far as an offensive attack goes from them and from Southern Alabama. Actually, back at that 62-44 wide open game in the Southeast 1 week ago.
Yeah, the one thing you can say about that offense as Southeast relentless, consistent. That defense, that offense has been proven to be one of the best in the 4A Metro Conference. When you have 5, now we can out Styles Jennings. When they lost McVay, Styles Jennings stepped up.
Yeah.
So they didn't lose anything when it's CJ McVay? Is that
CJ McVay,
McVay. Yeah, CJ McVay. When McVay, whatever situation occurred with him.
He got injured. Then the other kid, Khalid Boswell. We haven't seen Khalid Boswell anymore. Don't know about Khalid. Not sure what's going on with him. We may see him again down the road. We may not see him again. But like you say, they got a lot of different options in that backfield, right? That's a full load, that Southeast backfield.
They have a
and plus, they got the passing game going now, too. Bubba Craven hooking up with Moore. Got behind the defense not once, but twice last week.
And as I said all season long, in order to make a run in the 4A Metro, you cannot be one-dimensional. You must pass. And we also seen Dudley passing, so we are seeing a lot more teams do things other than what they used to do.
Yeah, some of the teams are coming out passing on purpose this year, too, just to try to throw the other teams off to think, well, they're not going to throw the ball in the game. But they come out very first part of the game throwing the ball early. You got Craven, number 12. You got Turner, number 33. Moore, number 25. Styles, number 30. Got to learn these numbers, these guys. We keep tracking those, too, because we know what these kids will do on Friday night.
And the thing about Southeast is no one has been able to stop that offense because that they run the wing T. And in the wing T, you can run so many different variations out of the wing T, and especially when you have the talented backs that they have. They have a talented backs. It's almost like it's tailor-made suit, and it fit each one of them well because each one of them have one off, and then you got to worry about the other 4.
Yeah,
so,
the crazy thing is last week, Antonio Moore got the big plays, got the big pass reception for like 42 yards, ran the kickoff back for about 85, 87, had another running play for a touchdown, but he had those big plays, but last week Shakir Turner over 200 yards, you wouldn't have known it unless you went back and added them all up. He had 4 touchdowns. Moore had 4 touchdowns. I mean, Moore, Turner, as much as anything, does a ton of different things for Southeast, sometimes they go a little bit unnoticed because he's so consistent, and he's not getting sometimes the big bolting 25 or 30-yard runs. He's getting a 5-yard run, 7-yard run, maybe a 2 or 3, and maybe a 15, maybe a 12-yard. The middle distance type yardage that really adds up in the long run. I mean, this is Shakir Turner. From what I've been tracking at GreensboroSports.com, among the top 5 running backs in the county, maybe number 2 right now, behind the kid Gillespie from Southern Guilford. I got all those numbers on there. Jalen's among those top runners too. Got some interesting numbers at the website tracking this year, but we got some good runners in the county. Thought we may not have as many this year, so we lost Logan and Malik Mosley from last year, but we got Cartwright back, and these other kids, their yardage are starting to add up now too.
Yeah, these are what we can consider unsung heroes, stars that are born, because you and I talked in the beginning of the summer that this is going to be more of a defensive season for a lot of our teams, because we knew a lot of the teams had great defense, and only one of the premier backs top, where as you said, Cartwright as well as Gillespie, we knew those guys was coming back, but these guys has really rose to the occasion, and we can't leave out the quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
Jamal Mang, Emmanuel Mosley, and also you have to put Bubba Craven in that, not so much for his running ability, but his passing. He plays, he called a good game. Bubba Craven is in control. He's cool, coming, collective.
He's got 500 yards passing for a Southeast team. Usually you don't get that much in your whole career, Southeast as a quarterback.
Exactly.
He's got 500 so far this season with 2 weeks to play.
Right.
Regular season to go.
Right. And the thing that Coach Fritz had to do was he had to go to another dimension, as I said earlier, to be in the running for a 4A championship. You have to be able to pass. But one thing we have to look at is Southeast that I'm not soloing is their defense. Last week, their defense gave up some points.
Yeah, and you got to look at it too. Some of those points came late against the reserves. So Alabama, when Southeast got the big lead, Coach Fritz put some reserves in the game, both on offense and defense, and kind of the tide of the game started to turn. And so then Alabama started scoring quickly, got a couple of quick touchdowns, and he put the starters back in. Once the starters sit down, it's hard to get that rhythm going again when you go right back in the game. It takes a little while to get warm again. And we talk about Southeast and even a team like Northwest, you not only look at the individual rushing, look at the team rushing. Northwest has rushed for getting close to like 2,800 yards now as a team, and Southeast not too far behind because they've got 4 or 5 guys, and the yards just keep adding up.
Right. And when you look at those teams at the Northwest and the Southeast, they have our running backs by committee, and each one of those running backs are capable of having a big night.
Yeah, you got one guy up at the top, and the other guys are right with them. Right in there.
And those guys, as I said, a 4th-string running back as Southeast and as Northwest can go and be a starter on some of these teams that doesn't have a good running back.
That's true. If you have a big week one week, you may be going for number 4 or number 3, maybe all the way up to number 2 in the running back system.
Right. Yeah. And we know in college they call it the depth chart, but in high school we know about 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string, or alternate as they, some coaches call it. He's alternate back. But the thing that you look at, Andy, that I've been focusing on, the running backs at Southeast, all of those guys have one thing in common: they run hard. They give 100% every time they touch the ball.
What about college? You mentioned college. Let's turn to college attention quickly. Football in Focus, Shane's Rib Shack for another Thursday night. North Carolina at NC State on Saturday. And you got both teams kind of eyeing the quarterbacks. Brent Renner and Marquise Williams from North Carolina. A lot of different things those guys do. All eyes on them. And Brandon Mitchell at NC State. Probably comes down to the quarterbacks in that game.
Yeah, I'm certainly in agreement because we've seen Renner have some ups. We've seen Renner have some downs, as well as the quarterback situation at NC State. So the quarterback's play is going to be huge because this is a big rivalry game.
Oh, yeah.
Big
one team's 2-5, the other team's 3-4. Records are bad shape, but still the heat of the game, the rivalry between the teams is always big, and love that game when those two get together. I mean, the heat will build up a little bit more as you get through Friday into Saturday. 12:30 kickoff, Raleigh Carter Finley Stadium, going to be a great game. Always is.
It's always.
Throw it out the back door.
Right.
And look at all the old games, had some real close games over the years, but every year, and look at last year's game when Giovanni Bernard ran that punt back for a touchdown. When NC State shouldn't have kicked the ball to him, they kicked it to him another time, gave him another chance, and he burned them again. Yeah. They paid the price.
Right down the right sideline.
Big play.
And the place went crazy. That was one of the games that everybody thought was over. And Gerald Bernard, you kicked it right.
All you got to do is kick it away from him and let the defense hold and run the clock down. Game over, you win.
He was only with seconds left in the ball game.
And Tom O'Brien loses his job about 3 weeks later. later.
Yeah, and those things as the big games has a lot of a consequence for the coaches and these teams. Fedora, I think now he's putting himself back in the driver's seat, but what he have going for him is he have the big number 85. And when you have a package like Eric Ebron, that is a ticket for you to keep your job security.
Big 85 just got to be careful. Sent out a lot of tweets this week. Got some people
they begin to tweet
riled up a little bit, trying to get that rivalry stirred up again. He was one of the guys that stepped out and said some things this week by way of the Twitter account. And it's been kind of interesting, but I still respect the kid. I mean, I'm following NC State. I'll be pulling them in the game, but still got to respect Ebron for what he's done there at the school, holding down that position, had some huge games. And, I mean, they throw a few things out there. The coaches haven't got too upset about it, but State's playing it smart. They're not saying anything. They're not talking at all.
A lot of alumni from State and as Tar Heels, they have been going back and forth. And I think Eric Ebron is one of those type kids that he looked forward to the big games. Even when he was in high school, some big-time athletes performed well, and he wants to let them know.
Likes that big stage. He had the big stage against Dudley, came up big plays there, had a big stage against Page. I remember seeing him catch some passes against Page at Page that senior year, too, that were very big for his team.
Right. And the big guy, tweet, some things that was said wasn't harsh. I think that is just the competitiveness of a competitor.
Well, you sure put a target on your back, though. Nobody's going to be without knowing who that number 85 is come Saturday from NC State. Those State guys may not say much. The guys that are State may be doing a lot of talking, but they're going to be focused on that number 85.
They're going to, and you guarantee there's going to be a lot of trash talking.
Yeah, the Carolina running game still hasn't really got clicking that strong yet. Carolina running game's still kind of weak. They haven't really got that in full gear yet.
And I think that, Andy, people are looking for T.J. Logan to be the Logan he was at Northern, but you can't have him at the fourth on the depth chart and not allowing him to get some PT.
Well, you keep splitting up the carries, the touches, splitting the touches up. It's going to be tough. You got to leave him in there for a while, let him build a little rhythm, a little consistency. But he had a heck of a run on that pass catch last week for 35 yards. That really looked smooth. That just kind of shows some of his breakaway speed when he gets an open space, what the kid can really do.
And then you and I talked about it. We had the opportunity to see a couple of games here on Football Focus when we were at the league that they run him a little too much in the inside. Logan has never been an inside runner. You've got to get him.
The only time he's an inside runner is if he comes off that first hit and then accelerates and exceeds past that little part of the defensive line, quickly past the linebackers, then he's gone. But that little slowdown, you slow a guy down long enough, if you get an arm on a guy that gives help enough time to get there, it's going to be hard to get those extra yards. It's going to be hard, especially to break away and get a long run. Let's put it that way.
And this is like any true freshman. You have to buy your time, put your time in, and that's what Logan is doing. Logan is taking the role well. He's not getting upset about the role he plays. He's taking it as it's come because he has that good football character.
How about the Carolina Panthers taking on Atlanta this week at home again? They beat Tampa Bay 31-13. We saw a little bit of that maybe here last week. Either that we caught some outside on the way home. But Panthers get the win. They're now 4-3, got a winning record for the first time since 2008, December of 2008. That's been about 5 years ago. A long time since they've been above 500 with a winning record. And Atlanta's, I think, 2-5 coming in. Atlanta's having a down year. They've had some injuries, really cut them down. The receivers have been all banged up, been hurt pretty badly. I guess the Panthers have a good chance to win Sunday too, right?
Yeah, they do. Two teams in that conference has caused the Panthers not to have good games. Have been Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So they've gotten by Tampa Bay. Now they're going to face Atlanta Falcons, which you still have to look out for Atlanta because they're still a good team, can come in and cause havoc. But the Panthers defense, Cam Newton had an outstanding week prior when they played Tampa Bay. His passing percentage was no interceptions. Passing percentage was up.
I don't think he's thrown a pick. Maybe the past 2 games. It may be 2 straight games. He hasn't thrown an interception.
2 straight games without throwing a INT. And the good thing about Cam Newton is when Cam Newton is in a rhythm and not so much dependent on his legs, but not dependent on his arm. And so he has some guys he can throw the ball to.
He had a good thing, too, to get Jonathan Stewart back this week. You can't expect Jonathan Stewart to do 150, 200 yards, even 100 yards probably his first game back. But it does give him another option, another speed back and a power back combination in that backfield to go along with Tolbert and Williams. You get Stewart back, I think he gives him an extra boost because he showed signs last year when his contract contract was being talked about and his future was in question with the Panthers, he really started to accelerate and step things up late, just like Williams did. I think get Stewart back, if he's completely healthy and ready to go, that's going to help him too.
That really is going to help him because then it's going to give Cam another option. That's going to give the defense that have to play against this Panther offense who's going to get it. You have to watch out for Stewart. You have to watch out for Williams. And the receivers is doing an outstanding job. LaFell is doing a marvelous job. And, you know, Steve Smith, Smithy is going to always be there. And then the big tight end. So Carolina Panthers have an opportunity to stay up above 500. The defense, Captain Monlin, is having an outside. I talk about him every week because he is the core of that defense.
Yeah.
He's doing out. He is certainly the captain of that defense.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that the receiver there too, Ted Ginn Jr., stays involved. Return man and one of the now top receivers for the Panthers. They get Ted Ginn Jr. involved some too. Changing gears again. We got to keep changing quickly because you got to roll out page guys coming in here pretty soon. What about you remember the final score of the game last night, World Series game?
The final score, I think, was it 4-1, 4-2? What was it? 4-1 or 4-2? What was
6-1.
6-1. Okay, you're right on it. You're right on it.
I was testing it. A little testing
you're
going on here
right
too.
on it.
Did you get to checking that out last night?
I didn't get to see.
I got to watch the celebration last night when they won the World Series. Had the big World Series awards come in. Watch the celebration. Watch the post-game interviews. All that stuff was really interesting to check out last night. Big Papi, David Ortiz had a huge series. He got the MVP. Had his kids there. Some of the other guys had their kids up on the platform when they were doing the post-game ceremonies. Really good stuff last night.
Right,
and it was good for that city.
Right, it really was. I didn't know was they going skiing all over. Had the ski goggles on for the champagne.
I didn't know they were doing any welding or going down to a mine shaft or whatever. I saw those goggles too. I knew at the end, knew toward the beginning, probably toward the end what it was really for. Right, kind of wondered. That was kind of an interesting look.
And the thing about it is, Ortiz, he said something that just really relieved a lot of tension. He talked about the bombing of the marathon bombing and how much that team wanted to give back to the city, and they have not won. And I know this for a fact. Was it 1918?
1918. Last time since they won and clinched at home.
Exactly. Since Babe Ruth days.
Yeah, back when Babe Ruth was, I think, a starter and a reliever back in those days.
It was amazing. It was an amazing athlete.
Speaking about amazing, what about Coach Rodney Brewington down in Florida, former Smith coach, up for Coach of the Year? His team playing for the district title Friday night down in Winter Spring Bears. Winter Spring Bears. I had an opportunity to talk with the old, I'm going to use the term they call Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach. Had a chance to talk to the old ball coach this morning. He was elated. He said, make sure you tell Andy Durham the good news that he have taken the program. One thing you have to give a coach credit like Rodney Brewington, he have been able to He's a turnaround man. He's a turnaround guy. He likes to go in when the team struggle before he gets there and go in and kind of have the reclamation, kind of reclaim the team, get them back in order, get them back in shape. I think that team was like 1-9 back-to-back years where he took over. Yeah, and the thing about it is he's like a restorer. He's an upholsterer. He go in and he restore things that still have some value to it and make it more valuable. That's what he have done for this team. Done a good job.
And the thing about it is he won games and beat teams that they hadn't beaten in that program in 20, 15, 10 years. So with that right there said, that speak volume of Coach Brewington. Some coaches have it that they can come in and stick with a program and turn it around, and some coaches have it they can go and turn programs around. And we see Doug Robinson. Doug Robinson has done the same thing. He was at Reedsville, turned that around, got them a championship, state championship. Then he came to Eastern and did the same thing. So you have some coaches out there with those abilities. Coach Brewington doing a good job down at Winter Spring, Florida, down near Orlando. His team is 5-3, going for the district crown on Friday night, November the 1st. We're October 31st, Halloween at Shane's Rib Shack on Westover Terrace, home of these great ribs and chicken and also burgers as well at Shane's Rib Shack. A lot of good chicken, a lot of good barbecue here too. Got some Page Pirates coming up. Quickly run down some of this middle school news. Aycock, big season, closed out yesterday, took a loss against Mendenhall. Keandre Page, Cody King with Aycock, Keandre Page of Mendenhall. Southeast Guilford closed strong. Zachary White and Allen, middle school closed strong. Good middle school football. Watched the game over at Page yesterday. Had the winter practices were out there going on. Had JV players in basketball doing sprints up in the far parking lot, running back and forth across the parking lot. Had everything going on at Page yesterday. Had that Aycock game on the field. They lost, and that one, I think the final of that game yesterday was 20-16 in that neighborhood. But then some other things we talk about tonight too. Good middle school football this year, and kind of a
mishap. We won't talk about all this, but a mishap among our guys was Smith. We're just keeping the thought out there for the two young kids from Smith, Mr. Jordan and Mr. Sims. They'll get things back in order. Thinking about them today since some things have gone haywire and awry in their lives. Want to see those two kids get it back together. I'm sure the Reverend going to switch hats with Dennis. He takes care of the broadcast with us. Also the Reverend as well. Going to keep those kids in your prayers. Going to try to get those kids coming back around.
Yeah, you're exactly right. When you say mishap, that is certainly what happened with those two young men. And as we stated in our conversation early today, prayer, and you hope that these guys find a way somehow to make some good out of this bad. And you just hate to see it because and I'm just so thankful to be a part of your program.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because we talk about the program. We had Eric Ebron, James Summers. We've had all these guys come through here, and sometimes the guys are sitting with us. They go on to some great things. And right now, we mentioned Mr. Jordan, Mr. Sims, both incarcerated, so nothing good happening for them right now. But hey, sometimes things go a little bit haywire, and same thing go awry, and they don't turn out like we want them to. Just hope things will turn around for those kids. About turning things around, Coach Brewington down in Winter Springs, Florida. Hope that things will turn around for Sims, and they'll also turn around for Jordan. But I talked about on the website today, you never know what hand you're going to be dealt.
That's right.
But you are the one that draws the cards.
Yeah.
And you draw the cards, you got to do something with it.
Yeah, and I've been taught when life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonades out of it. And the thing about it, Andy, is all the gentlemen that we've reached out to over the years of this show, it's not many that go astray. And that's a good thing that I like because there's so many positive influences in these young men's lives, and that's what we're all about, being positive influence. And as we talked about today, you just hate to pick up the paper, look at the news to see two kids that
on the front page of the paper.
Yeah, that's a hurtful thing. And I had to go back and look over it and over it again because I was in debate. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you were in something I read about or studied about this morning, getting ready for this day. You were kind of in denial. You wanted to be in denial because, another key word, denial is a key word. Another key word is fragile, very fragile lives, and things can change in an instant, and they can change for the worse.
And in that case, the kids made a bad decision, and Coach Rodney Brewington and I, Coach Brewington was real sympathetic, but he said they'll have a long time now to think and research life, and I hope they get a fresh start. And the thing about it is that the Sims had a scholarship offer to go and play football.
Yeah, we'll see.
Elijah Jordan.
And Sims was 6'5". How many often do you get that big, tall 6'5"? That's Cam Newton size.
Yeah, exactly. And both of those young men had an opportunity.
And Jordan was as fast as any little back around here.
He was. He was the epitome of a little back. He made all the small backs want to be a star because of
they
him.
see that and say, "Where's that coming? I want to do what that guy's doing."
Number 7. Yeah. And Andy, every time we used to broadcast Smith games, when I came back from coaching Smith, you used to say, "You never know what Elijah Jordan is going to do. Where is he at?
Where's he going next?"
That's right.
It's not necessarily where he starts; it's where he ends up.
Where he ends up. He was an elusive little small back, little Barry Sanders type body. And the thing about it, Andy, those two guys made the Smith Golden Eagles what they were on offense because Jeff was the quarterback.
If you take those two away, you're not the same team at all. Even with Eric Ebron still in there, you're not the same team.
You're not the same team. The chemistry of those two gentlemen put a lot, and Coach Brewington's heart is aching. And one of the things he has to look forward to is to make a difference in other guys' lives where you're at now.
What about quickly Pace Pirates? What do they need to do to win that game tomorrow night?
Have a complete ball game, consistent ball game for 4 quarters, winning on all 3 phases. They have to win offense, defense, and special team. They cannot wait to the end of the 3rd quarter, as they've been doing all year long, to try to play football against the Panthers, because their defense and that offense will have you so far behind you can't catch up. So Page got to come out clicking on all cylinders, and they have to do those small things better than Dudley. They have to get the first downs. They have to get yardage and get in good field position and good ball control.
Quickly on Dudley, what's Dudley got to do to hold down the home field advantage?
Keep their defense, keep Page scoreless, keep that defense smoking, and keep Emmanuel Mosley, elusive as he is, in Page territory all night long, and you can beat Page Pirates.
Let's gang tackle the quarterback, right?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Let's let you go. Thank you, Dennis.
Yes,
We'll let
sir.